Please check out Night Dreams Talk Radio web out at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, if you want to keep our show free of advertising, just hit the donate button. Give $1 or $2. Remember, all the prior shows are always free to listen to. We at Night Dreams thank you for your support.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, thank you, John, for that nice intro. Hey, tonight, my co-host is going to be Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, who's my Saturday relief host. And tonight we're talking to Richard Sieg. We're going to be talking about, past regressions and kids, being reincarnated in past lives and stuff like that. Hi, Richard. How you doing tonight?
I am doing well. I hope you are.
Oh, if I could get, I don't know how it is over at your place, Michael, but over here in Gig Harbor, down by the bay down here, the saltwater, it is like fog out here. You can smell the smoke coming from California, Oregon, from British Columbia, and even eastern Washington.
Oh, you know what, Gary? It looks like a beautiful fall day right now in Edmonds, where I'm at, which is also on the waterfront, Richard, and in Puget Sound. We can't even see probably a block away at this point with the smog and the, all the fire smoke in the air. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is totally crazy. And also, one of my listeners just messaged me about 20 minutes ago. They're saying on the news, they're telling people around New York that it is going to be working their way into New York starting tomorrow.
Oh, isn't that interesting? That's across 3,000 miles of the country, and it's still affecting people.
Yeah, now just think about if over in one of the super volcanoes, like in Yellowstone, would go, I mean, how long would it take before you go outside and it's like nighttime in broad daylight? That's what scares me. I mean, if one of those went, I think it would really, I don't know. Maybe this is a little bit a pretense of what could happen.
And from what I understand, Richard's a lot closer to that east cloud that comes his way than we are at this point.
I am in North Carolina, so.
Yes.
Well, let us know. You can email me and let me know if it hits your area. I mean, that tells you how bad it is. And now they're even saying on the news it is going to be really strange on the weather because of the all the ice melting in Antarctica. It's going to cause the weather patterns to go crazy, like extreme heat in the summertime. Even next year, they're talking about where it's going to go crazy hot. And then when it rains, it isn't going to be rains. It's going to be like monsoons coming down. And I remember back 20 years ago when all the scientists were trying to tell the government this is going to happen. And the government, scientists said, oh, no. You guys, it's wrong. It's never going to happen. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, I don't know who was right and who was wrong, but I know one thing. It's all screwed up.
Yeah, it's a lot different from 20 years ago here, too. So I think the climate patterns, I think that's a pretty uniform theme right now.
Well, for the people, we have a large audience out of the UK. I mean, if next June comes around and it's snowing in June, we know we got a serious problem on our hands. Well, Richard, why don't you tell everybody what you do and about your book?
Oh, thank you. My name is Richard Sieg, and I am an attorney. I practice, practice regulatory law, environmental law. So some of the issues you were touching on, certainly relevant to my practice, but that's during the day. At night, I have been writing general fiction, and I got interested in writing about paranormal activity when I saw, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Jim Tucker, his work at UVA, but his interview with little Ryan Hammonds out of Oklahoma on Today's Show. And at first I was watching it very skeptically. I was like, yeah, right. And then as they went through the story, the facts just started adding up, and that got me interested. So I wrote Love After Life. It's a paranormal romance, and it is written in the context of how psychiatrists study these children who claim to have lived a past life.
And how do the psychiatrists look and view kids that claim, they had a past life?
Well, the articles I've read, what they and the interviews I've seen, they sometimes get called in when a child at a very young age, from 2 to 3, starts spontaneously claiming to have lived a past life, and then the psychiatrist comes in at some point and starts getting the alleged facts from the child. And sometimes the parents have written these down. Maybe the child's. I think the boy Ryan Hammonds in Oklahoma was saying things like he wanted to go back home to Hollywood. And of course that was a surprise to his mother, Cindy. They lived in Oklahoma. And, so they come in, they get the facts, and they try to verify as many of the facts as they can. They investigate for things that, fraud and other things that, could transpire in those situations. And, they come up to conclusions. And Dr. Tucker, he took over for Dr. Stevenson over at UVA, and some of those cases are just really interesting and phenomenal cases. Ryan Hammonds, he's the boy who his mom was worried about him. She went to the library and checked out some books from Hollywood, because he said he was from Hollywood and from 1930s time frame. And there was a picture from the movie Night After Night in there, and he turned and he recognized one of the actors, but then he pointed to somebody and said, "That's me." And there was no name in the book about who that person was. There was nothing identifying him at all, and he knew a lot of facts. And so they write down the facts. They called, somehow Dr. Tucker got involved, and he interviewed and hired a researcher to find out who that man was. And lo and behold, when they found out who it was, the facts lined up. 5 wives. I mean, if you're going to be a kid claiming you have a certain number of wives in the past, I don't think 5 is the number you would just pick randomly.
And he was accurate on that, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
And just a lot of facts. But the one that really got me was when Dr. Tucker in the interview was talking about how the boy asked a question like, "I don't understand why God would take a 61-year-old man and put him back into a baby's body." And Dr. Tucker had the birth certificate and the death certificate, and they added up to 59, not 61. And he raised that, and the boy insisted it was 61, and he did some research and determined one of the documents was wrong. And there was no way for the boy to know that.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that was that fact really just kind of pulled me into this to this whole line, because I had never even considered it a possibility in my life. And even Dr. Tucker, he's a Southern Baptist, and it took him in an article I saw, it took him a lot to wrap his head around what the study of these children was leading to. So, very interesting stuff.
It's really scary, doing a paranormal show. And I've been off and on radio since 1976. And my first radio show in 76 was a paranormal show instead of Top 40, which it was supposed to have been. But, I never believed in reincarnation up till probably about February this year when I had Gordon on. He's wrote a couple books on reincarnation with children. But one of the cases, and I did verify as much as I could humanly do, is about a kid that claimed he was a World War II RAF fighter pilot. And he, was telling his parents he was a fighter pilot. He even went as far as saying how he got shot down, his plane caught on fire, but he knew and people's name in the unit he was in. And he had all this stuff.
Was that James Leininger?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I've read about that case too.
That really got me where my eyes were starting to open up. And then Gordon was even talking about his son, adopted son, that they now live in France, but he originally was from the UK. His son started having, at 20 years old, he started remembering things about the Titanic and naming people, all kinds of stuff. And he went and verified it, and it all kind of matched up. And then I have had a couple hypnotists on my show. One was a New York detective who handled homicides and stuff like that for many years. He decided when he retired he wanted to become a hypnotist and regress people, and just to basically find out if the stuff is true or not, And he actually got to a point where he was actually bringing people back to past lives. And then I asked him, I said, well, since you were a detective and you had to do, a lot of groundwork trying to put cases together, did you investigate? And he goes, yeah, I investigated a couple of them and they matched 100%. And stuff that wasn't in the news where they couldn't have even, found out the information. So that's when my eyes open up that there must be reincarnation. And then I'm going to talk one more case and then we'll get all into you. Michael, too, I don't know if you remember the boy in India that was in a small village, and he started telling his parents that he was murdered, and that he knew the person was still alive in the village that killed him, knew where the body was. He finally got his dad to go to the authorities. The authorities then investigated it half-heartedly, found, the remains of a little boy with a hole in the skull, found the murder weapon, and then actually one of the people watching all this investigation going on, the kid was even naming who the murderer was in the village. And the guy actually admitted that he did kill the boy. And I mean, that if that isn't proof of reincarnation, I mean, that something is up.
Wow. Now, that's an interesting case. The idea that a past life was used to solve a mystery of a murder, and it turned out to be correct information. There's a very interesting story about the first and only time that a ghost, testimony from a ghost, as given to the mother of a murdered child, was taken seriously and convicted the murderer of that horrendous crime. And that was out of Pennsylvania District Court back in the 1970s. Can you imagine what's going on here now that we're talking past lives and ghosts and communication, off-world is now becoming serious, I guess.
Well, I think it is. And Richard, is this what motivated you from going from practicing law to actually writing this book?
Well, I saw that interview with the psychiatrist and Ryan Hammonds and his mother, Cindy,